One local group says it is a big problem.
And there's a push to punish the adult clubs that violate the law. Anchor Camille Whitworth is here now. And Camille, who is behind this push?
Adriana, we're talking about the Covenant House. They sat before City Council today, explained the issues. Executive Director Jim Kelly says many places are not enforcing or following the city ordinance that states you must be 21 years old to be a dancer at a nightclub, and you have to be 18 to work there in any other position. Kelly says many of his residents from the Covenant House started dancing when they were teenagers, some as young as 16 years old. He says many girls who started dancing at a young age end up involved in human trafficking. Kelly helped pass the city ordinance 25 years ago, raising the minimum age of dancers in adult clubs from 18 to 21.
Putting young women under the age of 21 up on a stage are in essence pimps. And we need to say to them, one offense, you're closed for a week. Second offense, you're closed for a month. Third offense, you're closed for a year. That will get their attention because they're all about sex and money.
Do you think they'll stop now? Jim Kelly is recommending that there'll be stiff punishments for those businesses who hire those underage women. Tonight on WDSU News at 6 o'clock, hear from council members and what solutions are now on the table. I'll let you know, Adriana.
Do I believe that there's human trafficking taking place on Bourbon Street? Absolutely.
Reaction tonight to an undercover operation cracking down on human trafficking in New Orleans. Good evening, I'm Shelley Brown.
And I'm Lee Zurich. 8 New Orleans strip clubs got their liquor license suspended as part of the crackdown.
Yeah, police say a months-long investigation revealed there was prostitution and sometimes drugs in those businesses. Kimberly Kurth has more.
The executive director of the Covenant House in New Orleans says there is absolutely human trafficking happening on Bourbon Street.
Well, I know that Polaris and the FBI and Homeland Security consider New Orleans one of the hotspots for trafficking, just as they do Houston and Atlanta.
The Covenant House helps at-risk youth. That's why Jim Kelly says a recent undercover operation cracking down on human trafficking is a good start.
Is it taking place in every single club? Of course not. But is human trafficking taking place in strip clubs? Yes.
The NOPD teamed up with state police and the Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control for the operation. As a result of the months-long investigation, officials say 8 strip clubs had their liquor licenses suspended.
The owners of these businesses have been told explicitly and in writing what offenses led to their suspension. In many cases, narcotics, but in every case, prostitution.
Although there were no human trafficking arrests made in this particular operation, there have been more than 30 cases of prostitution as well as drug cases and lewd acts found within the establishments.
Pretty hard in a 2 or 3 minute interview with a potential trafficking victim to know they're being trafficked.
The New Orleans police chief says the suspension of the club's liquor licenses represents the first step in an ongoing effort to confront human trafficking in New Orleans.
We weren't trying to focus on the prostitutes so that they become the targets of the investigation. The targets of this investigation were primarily pimps and clubs who are using these places to facilitate the human trafficking and to create more victims.
The chief did talk about some potential arrests of pimps. Well, if there's pimps involved, there's a good chance there's force, fraud, or coercion. And if there's force, fraud, or coercion involving a pimp and a woman involved in prostitution, that's human trafficking.
The NOPD says charges are forthcoming for those who participated in the solicitation of prostitution and the drug sales. The chief also says arrests for both pimps and others who facilitate human trafficking are coming. We tried to contact all of the strip clubs who had their liquor licenses suspended, but we were only able to reach one, which told us no comment. All of the businesses will have hearings next month to determine whether they are allowed to reopen and whether their licenses will be permanently revoked. Shelley.
At the saloon raid, where the police officers violated us. They took pictures of 3 dancers without their clothes on. They watched us get dressed naked upstairs while they did have female officers on present. There were no charges of underage strippers. When I mean it's under 18 strippers. We had 0 under 18 strippers. We have found no cases of sex trafficking at any of our clubs, but yet thousands of us have lost our jobs. And so we're out here fighting it. And they label us as prostitutes for doing things like touching your own breast is considered a prostitution charge in New Orleans, Louisiana. If you have pubic hair, it must be covered or else you are a prostitute. If you are barefoot without shoes, you are considered a prostitute. We are silenced. We do not have the same constitutional rights as a corpse.
So for people to take away jobs for things like touching our own breasts, they're fucking mine.
Let us dance! Let us dance! Let us dance! Let us dance! Let us dance!
These raids are selective enforcement. It is the continuation of assaults on women. It is the continuation of an assault on working class people who are just trying to get by.
We deserve the right to work and to make money in the job of our own choice.
We belong here, and we will not just easily surrender our street. This is how we make our livelihood.
I started dancing because my mother has lupus, and she couldn't afford her medication, and I couldn't afford my tuition. And when I showed up to my office and asked them, what can I do so that way I don't have to drop out of school, the registration lady looked at me and said, I don't know, but we accept cash or check. So I started dancing, and I paid for her medication, and I paid for my registration. Their political agenda will not cost me my future.
I've danced for over 10 years. It's provided me the ability to travel around the world to over 80 countries. I was able to buy my house, completely pay off my tuition, take care of my sister set, and take care of myself through my whole life.
I'm a waitress. My son was diagnosed with autism. He has to be at therapy, at 3 different therapies a day. I literally waitress so that I can get my son to therapy. If I don't have this job, I don't know how I'm gonna pay for my son to go for 30 minutes of speech for $45 for 30 minutes, 2 times a week. That equals to $360 a month. Tell me another job that's gonna help me take care of my son, please. Somebody tell me.
What you are seeing are young women being coerced by the city's actions to put themselves in potentially dangerous situations.
Yeah.
The only evidence of trafficking that I see is done by the actions of the city itself.
They've been raiding places where people try to work independently here in the city for 300 years. The city is 300 years old. This has been going on forever. But something is happening that's different right now, which is that we're pushing back.
Save our jobs! Save our jobs!
After protests and controversy, 6 French Quarter strip clubs have reached an agreement with the Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control.
5 of those clubs were scheduled to have hearing tomorrow to figure out if the suspensions of the club's liquor licenses were justified. And Jade Cunningham joins us now with more on what this means. Jade?
Natalie and Ton, one of those clubs has actually shut down operations entirely. 5 others will have to pay a fine, and they'll have their liquor license temporarily suspended. And the announcement of this agreement comes after a heated day on Bourbon Street. A city press conference regarding the Bourbon Street reconstruction project came to a halt when a large group of protesters let their voices be heard.
There's still no police to protect me when I walk to my car after work, but we repaved Bourbon Street. Great job.
The group of exotic dancers and other club employees spoke out about recent raids that took place in 8 strip clubs on and around Bourbon. The NOPD, state police, and the ATC suspended their liquor licenses after finding instances of prostitution, drug use, and other lewd acts. On Monday, Covenant House Director Jim Kelly told Eyewitness News he applauds the enforcement.
This is not about the dancers. It's about owners and managers. The employees of those clubs should be able to work in a prostitution-free, drug-free workplace, just like any other restaurant or club in the French Quarter.
Others disagree.
Are bad things happening in the clubs? Absolutely not.
Some employees claim the findings are nonsense, saying the suspensions have hurt them rather than helped.
It's a place that represented stability and financial security for me. It's the only reason I was able to leave my abusive relationship, and now they've closed the only place that gives me what I need to survive.
To have not only my passion, but my income threatened by an outside force that is completely illegitimate. It's not right. And if we don't stand up for it, then no one else is going to.
Which was the message demonstrators wanted the city to hear Wednesday, standing together for what they believe in.
These streets have been open for a few weeks, so to call this a ribbon cutting in the middle of shutting down all these clubs and saying welcome to the new Bourbon Street, we know exactly what the city is trying to imply, and that is not the case. These clubs aren't going away. These clubs have been a part of what Bourbon Street is.
At this time, 3 of those clubs have not reached an agreement with the ATC. Their hearings are scheduled for February 6th.